Hey YouTube, Maestro here with Bendu Lightsaber Combat. With me today is Bluffington. Actually, this is my buddy Bluff, and he's going to be helping us out today. Today we're going to be talking about some of the intricacies of Soresu, specifically the immobilizations, which are a key aspect of that art. Soresu has, of course, two modes to it. One where we're fighting very far away, we're keeping the opponent at distance, and as they come in to attack, we're defeating them with the three circles or spheres, the three orbits of defense that make up the bulk of Soresu. So from far away, I'm using my triangle. Up closer, I'm using the square or the cube. And in very, very close distance, I'm using the circle to help defeat the opponent. But what about after that? What if the opponent doesn't want to stop attacking you? As you know, with Soresu, it's all about defense. There's virtually no offense. No, we don't abandon our defensive centralized position to go onto the offense with our opponents in Soresu. In Soresu, we want to protect not only ourselves, but also the opponent. So with Soresu, one of the key fundamental aspects of it is the immobilizations. Immobilizations can be performed in a lot of different ways. Today we're going to go over three different areas where you can immobilize the opponent. One is in the weapon, the second is in the wrist, and the third is in the rest of the arm. Okay, so we'll just be talking about a couple of grapples and immobilizations that you can use. Now, whenever you're doing something like this, be very careful. You don't ever want to be forceful. You don't want to hurt your opponent. Any pain that Soresu causes is always momentary, and the second that you let go, that pain should completely dissipate. Ideally, there shouldn't be any pain. It should just be a matter of mechanics and leverage. All right, let's go over the first one we're going to talk about today. So the first one we're going to talk about today is a very simple one. I'm going to gain the opponent. I'm going to step in. I'm going to make, if you've watched the previous Soresu videos, I'm going to make an irimi movement, which means I'm going to enter to get close to my opponent. So the opponent comes in and he attacks on the outside line. And what I'm going to do is, after I make this parry with the good body mechanics that we talked about already, the good blocks on the forts of the blade, enabling me to be free, to stop his blade and to go forward, I'm going to make my irimi step in, and this puts me in range of his weapon. Now, when the opponent's using a two-handed grip like this, he has an advantage in strength because he has two hands on the weapon. But he has a much more limited mobility. And I can also put two hands on the weapon if I use my offhand, my open hand, as well as the bind that I've got his blade into right here. And what I'm going to do in this case is I'm going to apply a downward outside pressure to his blade at the same time, reaching in, grabbing the butt of his weapon and pulling it towards me. So I'm getting this really good leverage action. You can see in his shoulders, I'm not pulling him. He's just going because the leverage and the way that I'm moving him is causing his body to bind up on itself. And now he's completely out of balance, and I have control of the situation. I can take him anywhere I want to take him. I can move him however I want to move him. He's, for all intents and purposes, immobilized. The only option he has at this point is to disengage away from his aggressive action. And that's my goal as a Soresuist, is to get him to stop his aggressive action. So let's see it one more time. We're going to go to about half speed here. So we're fighting here, we're fencing. I'm in a Soresu ready stance. And as he comes in to attack on this side, I perform my irimi and my block in one motion, stepping fully in. So now I have the ability to apply my immobilization. And I'll do that, as I said, by pushing down with the saber, up with a hand, into his weapon. I'm going to get a good grip on the butt of his weapon, and I'm just going to apply. And I can move him wherever I want because I'm balanced, I'm stable, he's not. Now, if he really wants to get in here and push on me, if my blade is too close to his hands, he's going to succeed. If he tries to untwist his weapon, go ahead, Bluff, untwist, go push back against him. There you go. He's got leverage enough to do it. He's going to be able to do that. Really, go ahead, push the blade up. There you go, perfect. So, I don't want to get into this type of a binding situation. I want to get into this type of a block. I want to make sure my fort is against his foible. Watch again where I make the block. So as he comes in, I step, and my parry is outside. Low on my blade, high on his. This gives me the leverage that I need to very easily, even if he resists, resist me. Even if he resists, even if he gets tough, I can still step in and he's immobilized. And I have total control over him and his weapon, and I can do whatever I want to him. Okay? So that's the first immobilization. All right, the second immobilization moves into the hand. This immobilization is a very versatile one. It can be used in a lot of different ways and a lot of different times. The easiest way to do it is when the opponent is attacking onto the 5 line, especially if they're only using one hand on the saber. So Makashi practitioners or anybody who favors a single hand on the saber, it really allows you to manipulate that single hand. If they have 2 hands, you can still do it, but it's a lot easier when they have 1 hand. It's not always appropriate if they have 2. So the attack we're working with here, again, I'm going to take my nice neutral, natural guard, very deep centralized, my knee is bent, I'm ready to go. I can move forward, or I can open and turn. I can do Irimi or Tenkan, whichever one I need to do. When Bluff makes his attack here to my head, go ahead, Bluff, that's the attack that he's looking for. He's trying to strike me directly into the head. With my sword down, is pretty open, but if I'm relaxed and ready, I'm able to respond instantly to that, and we'll see how that works. So, Mr. Bluff, you want to go ahead?
Absolutely.
All right, whenever you're ready, sir, go ahead. Again, same principle. I'm stepping in, making my parry low. It's hard to see on the video, but I'm actually not stepping straight into Bluff under the sword. I'm stepping outside on a 45-degree angle. This is my strong centralized position. I have his blade stopped. From here, I'm going to apply the immobilization to his wrist. This one's very simple. All I'm going to do is wrap my fingers around his thumb, put my thumb between the pinky joint and the ring finger joint on his finger here. That's what I'm pushing against. I'm pushing against this last bone in his hand, at the same time gripping the pad of the thumb. When I do that, what's going to happen is, and I'm going to be supported again by my blade pushing the opposite direction, I'm going to turn and open his wrist in such a way that he has no strength to resist me. Now, is this pretty painful?
It's not really, no.
It's not really painful. It shouldn't be painful. It's uncomfortable. It should be uncomfortable momentarily. But the second that I let him go, all the pain goes away. All the pain goes away. I'm not damaging him. I'm not torquing anything. I'm not ripping. I'm not being overly aggressive with him. All I'm doing is taking control and moving his hand into such a position. I'm leading it into a circuit of neutralization. So let's do that one more time. Again, we'll go at about half speed so you can see it very well. In my neutral guard, as I see the attack coming in, I'll step in to the side, 45, and then my hand is free to go straight for that immobilization. It'll be supported by the blade so that I don't get a saber to the head. And from here, I can either hold and immobilize him. I can take my time. I can strike if I really need to. Or if I really want to, I can actually disarm him with my arm. I'll get my elbow behind his blade, pop it right out. And I've still got him, and I can do whatever I want. If he tries to push back against me or resist me in any way, he's fighting in his own hand. The only thing he can do successfully from here, that's practical, is to get away from me. He can disengage, he can abandon his aggressive intention. And as we talked about before, that's the goal of Soresu, to get that opponent to abandon their aggressive intention towards you. All right? Okay, so the last immobilization I'm going to show you has 2 variants. There's 2 different ways to do it. The first one is going to be an immobilization. The second one is technically an immobilization, but it leads into a projection, which we'll cover later. This one is very useful when the opponent is giving you a lot of energy. So they're making very energetic, high commitment attacks against you. I'm going to show it with both the Irimi and the Tenkan movement so that you can see exactly how to do it under both situations. All right, so when Bluff and I are facing each other, again, I want to be in my nice Soresu relaxed ready stance so that I'm free. I can move in any direction just as fast in one direction as any other. My saber is ready, but it's lowered because I don't want to take any aggressive stance against him. I want to have all my focus be on my defense. I want to move when he moves, not after he moves, not before he moves. I want to move with him. So here, as he comes in for an attack, As he steps in, I want to, again, make my parry low on my blade, higher on his, stepping off 45 degrees to the side. Okay? My free hand is going to come up to apply this technique at the same time as I'm sweeping his blade aside. Now, this one has a lot of moving parts. I'm going to try to slow it down and show you exactly what's going on. So we're going to take it step by step. So as he's thrusting into my chest here, I'm stepping 45 and parrying. My second step is going to come from my back foot. I'm going to step again 45, get right in front of him, and my arm is going to go straight between his arm and my arm. Now from here, at the same time that I'm gripping his arm, and I'm going to grab around the arm, grabbing the muscle right here with my fingers. I don't have to crush him. I don't have to get a huge grip on him. I just need to secure it. I don't even actually have to grab him. I just need to get my arm wrapped into his. Then I'm going to be pushing down. That opens his arm. At the same time, my shoulder comes forward right into his shoulder. And because he's off balance, it's a projection. If I throw him, don't hold him up, he's going to fall over. So that's where that projection comes into. That's one way to do this particular arm attachment. There's another way to do that as well, though. There's another way to do it. If I want to do, this is the enemy way, because of course I'm entering. I can also do ten-can movement, which is opening and turning. So I'll show that to you now. It's the same attack, but this time instead of stepping in on the inside, can you throw that attack one? Instead of stepping to the inside, I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to open and turn. Instead of stepping in, I'm going to step out, open and turn. Now this one is very difficult because I have to make a larger movement when I'm opening and turning. If the opponent doesn't have commitment in his strike, this is very bad for me. Of course, with Soresu, you want to deal with committed, high-energy attacks. If the opponent doesn't give you that, you can use the 3 orbits of defense to deal with him. These types of more advanced Soresu techniques are for fully committed, high-energy attacks. All right. So one more time, I'm standing with him, and when he goes to attack, I'm stepping in. I'm going to make contact with the blade, actually. I'm actually grabbing his weapon under his arm. I'm not grabbing his arm or his hand, because then we have the equal, we're fighting for control of the weapon. If I grab the back of his weapon, that's the only control that I need here. I'm keeping his blade from killing me with my connection here, and I'm just going to continue this opening and turning movement around my body, and that's what puts him into that arm lock. Now, I've got the blade here secured, and all I need to do is raise my elbow, and he's in that arm bar. And now as I've got him here, he can struggle against it if he wants to, but there's not really a lot he can effectively do. He might be able to throw a kick or a punch at me or something like that. But if I turn this way, I can take him because he's completely off balance and I'm not. So I have total control over him. If I really wanted to hurt him, I can step back, probably throw him over me, but I don't want to do that. I just want to immobilize him. And if I want to, I can take the hand, cut the body, whatever I want to do. Thanks, Bluff.
You're welcome.
Okay, so those are some examples of the immobilizations that we can do to the opponent with the Soresu principles and techniques that we've been working on. Just a few examples. We'll go over some others in a minute. But those are the first 3 that I wanted to show you against both the weapon, the wrist, and then the arm. So remember, for immobilizations, there's a couple of guiding principles. The most important part about immobilizations, though, is when you're practicing these, practice them very, very slowly. Don't hurt your opponent. These should not cause injury at all, under any circumstances. We don't do them hard in practice, and when you're bouting, I wouldn't recommend doing them at all. These are for people who are studying the techniques, to be done only, of course, with approval and under proper supervision. All right, well, have fun and happy sabering.